Hey, this is Mark Kung Fu, and I wanted to post a video response to the fabulous Scott of Theoretical Bullshit. Scott, I love your videos, and I think they're really funny and really useful and poignant. And so I just wanted to say thanks for posting great videos. I do have some questions, though, and I have questions for atheists. It doesn't rhyme as much as questions for Christians, but I do have questions for atheists. And first and foremost, I wanted to say that I do not believe in the standard Christian God. I believe in an afterlife, and I believe in some other world where when we die we rejoin some sort of post-afterlife, ether thing. And I do believe that there's a higher structure and organization to life and God and all of that. And although I don't believe in a big man sitting on a throne, I do believe in something that people are calling God. So even though it may not be a man on a throne, I still believe that there's some sort of entity or existence or higher thought or higher power that people can believe in and should believe in. So given all of that, here's my questions for atheists. So there's 3 questions, and again, they follow a sort of trend. My first question is, do you believe in anything immeasurable or anything outside of scientific measurement? And that's right now, like right today, by the standards that we have for measuring all the scientists in the whole world. If we were to get them in a big room and we were to ask them to go and measure everything, is there anything that you believe is outside of measurement? That's really important to me, because if you don't believe there's anything outside of measurement, then I think that an atheist belief is very valid. But history shows that we've got a long trend of things that we weren't not able to measure, and that suddenly we were able to measure them. For example, the easiest example being we discovered we could measure the molecule. Like, oh, there are molecules. And then we found the atom underneath that. And then we found the subatomic particle underneath that. So there's all these different things that we couldn't measure, and now we can. So do you believe that there's anything today that we cannot measure? I'm assuming your answer is going to be somewhere along the lines of, yes, today there's something that we cannot measure. Well, along those lines, do you believe that there is always going to be something that we cannot measure? Because if there's always been something in the past we couldn't measure, you'd think that we'd always have something we couldn't measure. If so, my second question is, do you suppose that that list of immeasurable things, all those things we cannot measure today, follow a certain trend? Like, just like the molecule is bigger than the atom is bigger than the subatomic particle, we discovered those in a certain trend. They followed a certain theme, particularly size, or molecule size, or the sizes of things that make up matter. Do you suppose that the things we will be discovering also follow a certain trend? Okay, third question. If you believe that these immeasurable things follow a certain trend, do you believe, where do you think that trend stops, or where does it end, if it does end? If it doesn't end, which is a great question, are you saying that there are things that we will forever not know and understand as humans? If so, that's kind of the same belief that Christians and other religious people have. They believe that there's this intangible thing that you have to have faith in, right? Well, but if it does end, where does it end? Like, at what point does that trend actually stop moving forward? And that points to what I believe in. I believe the same beliefs. I got most of my beliefs from Ken Wilber, who's a current thinker today, brilliant man. And he really has 2 things that make up his belief system. One is that all things have a measurable and immeasurable aspect of them. The measurable aspect being like the neurons in your brain. We can measure those. Like thoughts are a good example, okay? Because thoughts, so you can measure them measurably, and you can, in your brain, you can say, okay, this neuron goes to this thought. You're thinking about a cat, right? But when you think of a cat, you'll never find a picture of a cat anywhere inside your brain. So this picture of a cat that comes to mind when you think of cat doesn't exist. It's not measurable, it's not real, and yet it exists in some form or fashion. It does exist, because when you think of a cat and you see a cat, it's there, right? Even though we can't measure it. And even if we could measure it, there'll be other things that we cannot measure, and that same philosophy just keep carrying forward. So along those lines, everything has a measurable aspect to it and an immeasurable aspect to it. Another example is the number 4. The concept 4, when you think of a 4 in your head or the number 4, you can measure the lead. You can, see the lead when you draw out a figure 4, or you can show the neuron that you run through when you think of the number 4. But the concept 4 is immeasurable. So that's one half. The other half of his belief system says that everything is made up of parts that are made up of parts that are made up of parts infinitely down, okay? Or infinitely smaller parts. And everything is a part of a larger thing that's part of a larger thing that's part of a larger thing infinitely up. So basically, those are called holons, Holons, holons. And so if you take all these concepts and put them together, basically at the end of all these bigger holes that we're discovering, right? We're taking things apart and we're putting them together and we're seeing bigger holes, the galaxy, the universe. Basically, everything starts to move towards a certain God entity or God figure or God thought thing, right? And that's what I believe in. That's my evidence that there is a God, that there's a sort of logic or order or a trend that everything follows. So, given that, how do you reconcile that trend? How do you reconcile the progression of science with the lack of belief in any sort of higher power or higher logic or organization? Or do you believe in a higher logic or a higher power? Like, what kind of atheists are there? Because, quite frankly, I know, 3, and Scott's you're one of them. So, how does all that work? How does all those intangibles and immeasurable things integrate into your belief system and with science and progress? That's my question, and thanks. Bye.